Part 1 has plenty of questions, but you are only expected to give short answers.
Saying too much means the examiner might cut you off and stop you, which may cause you to panic or become nervous if you take this as being a bad thing. It isn't. If the examiner cuts you off, you've said enough, and they need to move on. Remember that the examiner has a limited amount of time to finish your speaking test. They cannot go over time, so if you've said enough, they'll stop you and move on to the next question. However, if the examiner stops you and repeats the question, well, that is not good. You haven't answered the question that was asked, and they are giving you another chance to do so. Remember, the most important thing about the speaking test is to listen carefully so that you can answer the question that was asked by the examiner. Unfortunately, in Part 1 the examiner cannot rephrase the question, they can only repeat it word for word. So, asking for clarification won't help in Part 1. But, if you need time to think, or didn't hear the question clearly, ask the examiner to repeat the question. Remember, they are only marking your speaking skills, not your knowledge or intelligence. So if you need to, ask the examiner to repeat the question in Part 1. Although this is the short answer section, you can be too short. You must give the examiner something to mark, so never just say yes or no. Look at some example questions from Cambridge 16. The why, or why not, are in square brackets because the examiner shouldn't have to ask, you should say so as support for your answer. Here's an example answer for the first question. Don't do this.
For Part 1 I'm going to ask you some questions about plants. Do you have a favorite flower or plant?
I don't think I do really.
Instead, do this.
For Part 1 I'm going to ask you some questions about plants. Do you have a favorite flower or plant?
I don't think I do really. I'm not a gardener or that keen on the outdoors, so I've never really chosen one, but I do like those shrubs with the large round shiny, dark green leaves. I've often seen them in pots in malls, and I think they're really lovely.
Never forget that you must say why, or why not, and you'll say enough in Part 1, remember. If the examiner cuts you off, it is okay. However, if the examiner cuts you off and repeats the question, it is not okay. To ensure you've said enough, always say why, or why not. Listen carefully so you answer the question that was asked. Thanks for watching. Go to the link below for practice you can do at home.